Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. This episode of Proof of Love is brought to you by Vaultoro. Vaultoro is a gold hedging solution for the crypto community. One of the challenges of investing in cryptocurrencies is dealing with volatility. Keeping a diversified portfolio is a key to healthier returns. I keep about 10% of my crypto assets in gold using Vaultoro. Vaultoro allows me to open a gold wallet in seconds where I can trade easily with cryptos and gold. What I like about using Vaultoro instead of Tether is that the gold in my Vaultoro wallet is insured, audited, vaulted in Switzerland, and unlike fiat money, gold has increased in value for the last 20 years. Visit Vaultoro.gold/Tatiana today and get zero trading fees for the first 3 months. That is vault, like a gold vault, and oro, which is Spanish for gold. Vaultoro, ale.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Proof of Love, the show where we share our thoughts and then get no feedback from you guys. Just kidding. We actually got some really good...
throw in some shade.
Yes, exactly. No, actually, we got a really good question from somebody in the audience over the weekend, but then I was thinking, we don't get enough questions. I get a lot of questions in person from people, especially during discussions about relationships, which we're all having every day. But if you're listening to this show and you have a burning question, make sure that you submit it on our website, proofoflovecast.com. My name's Tatiana Moroz, and I have my two beautiful co-hosts with me, Dr. Stephanie Murphy. Hey, Steph.
Hey there. It may take a while for the Proof of Love tour to get to your city, so please do send in your questions via our website.
Although, you know what, I do have some episodes from on the road.
That's going to be fun.
Yes, I'm very excited. And also, before we get into all that, we can't leave out the beautiful Lauren Kasovitz. She's on her way to Japan next week, but she's joining us this week. So great to see you, Lauren.
Hello. Great to see you guys too. Hello, everybody.
Very cool. So I just got back from Riga and Switzerland. And for those of you following along on my social media, I lost my passport. I lost my favorite necklace. It was very, very sad. But I did get some really good interviews. So I have this really cool one with Max Kaiser and Stacey Herbert that talks about their love. I have a really long one with Jimmy Song talking about the values of marriage. You know, he has 6 children. We have Tone Vase joining in, talking about dating and stuff. So we've got some really cool episodes. I'm not sure when we're going to air today's show, but Proof of Love airs on Fridays, and then the Tatiana show is usually on Tuesdays, sometimes Thursdays. And this show has been brought to you by our wonderful sponsor, Vaultoro. Josh actually just had a beautiful baby girl. Did you guys see her?
Oh, congratulations, Josh. No, I didn't see her.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh. She looks like a little angel. Mommy and daddy are happy and wonderful. I haven't really gotten too much of a chance to catch up with them, but congratulations. And also make sure you guys get your gold and Bitcoin at Vaultoro.com. There's lots of cool things going on with them. So we've got a lot of things to talk about on the show today, and we are just reviewing in advance what we could chat about. And I don't know, Steph, what do we decide on? I think we're going to talk about breakups, right?
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about breakups. And, you know, how do people break up these days? What are the kids these days doing when they want to break up with someone? And maybe how could that be improved? Because sometimes, you know, I don't know about you girls, but I know a lot of people who are broken up with and they're not very happy about the way that they're broken up with. I certainly have been guilty of breaking up with people in not very ideal ways in the past. So I'm not trying to say I'm above this at all. But what do you think? Like, what's the worst way that you've ever been broken up with, or that you've ever broken up with someone? I can start if you guys want.
Yeah, go for it.
I had a boyfriend in high school and I cheated on him. This was the first and only time I've cheated on someone. And yeah, he found out and he was devastated, and he was so upset that he actually threw up in my parents' bathroom. And then there was I was finding little splatters of vomit for a while.
Oh, no.
This was so bad, so bad. And I felt terrible. So I didn't do that again. Then later, my next relationship, I must have had bad karma because in my next relationship after that, was a boyfriend in college. We were pretty serious. I was like completely in love with him. This is like my first love. And one day he just ghosted me. Like we were together for, I would say like maybe 2 years. And then,
What?
yeah. And he just stopped calling me back. And
Oh my
I was like
God.
leaving him a couple voicemails. I was like, hey, what's going on? Like, are you okay? And he ghosted me after 2 freaking years of being in a relationship. And
That
I
is
was like,
nuts.
he was like the one, like this ruined me on monogamy for a while after this because I like stopped looking at anyone else besides him. I only had eyes for him. I was so in love with him. And he just stomped my heart to pieces and
Ah,
ghosted. And then I saw him on campus a few months later and he was in a cubicle. He was in the chemistry club. He was a chemistry major. And I was biochemistry, so I was running into him a lot. And one day I was going into the chemistry club office for some reason, and I saw him sitting there like studying, and he ducked behind a cubicle.
what?
I didn't know what to do. I was like, should I go around back and try to confront him? But there's like people around here. So I just walked out.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was so bad. And I was just like, how could someone do that after being together for so long? I mean, I guess looking back on it now, I can see that, look, I was in my early 20s and I had a lot of issues, from having a difficult time in school. And I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of like, I was kind of depressed. I was having a rough time. He was also like, had this chronic knee pain that was really bothering him. And it was also, I think, linked with some depression. And so he was depressed too. And like, I mean, maybe we were a good match in that way because we were both sort of on the struggle bus. But yeah, he just like, he just totally ghosted me and then
Um,
hid behind a cubicle because he was
What a
too cowardly to
spineless.
see.
Ugh. So
yeah,
I
that
think
is.
the
Ugh.
ghost is the worst, but the ghost from somebody that you've been dating forever is just ridiculous.
Yeah, but I think maybe it was bad karma because in my previous relationship, I was like, well, I want to, I was not feeling the relationship with my high school boyfriend. He lied to me about something, like he was on academic probation and he lied to me about it, and he didn't tell me about it or something until he was almost like getting kicked out of school. He was in college and I was in high school. And
Mm.
and like it was kind of also a long distance relationship, and once that happened I just kind of like lost respect for him, and I was like, I kind of want out of this relationship. Also, I think he may have been gay, I'm not sure, but I was just ready to get out, but then I was almost like too scared to reject him, to have the conversation and be like, I think we should just not.
Yeah.
And so I found someone else and cheated on him. And I was like, not really thinking about it very consciously. And I was just hoping like this is going to get me out of this relationship. And it did, but in a way that was really, really hurtful to my boyfriend, that made it so that we could never be friends. And
So go ahead.
so I'm not proud of either of those situations.
So, I know that we're talking about breakups, but this to me speaks to something that ends up, I'm coming across all of these men and there's such a bunch of broken little dipshits. And I'm sorry to not be more sympathetic, but like they're all so broken. And, they all have these stories from when they were, in high school or college and their girlfriend broke up with them and they never got over it. And now they're
When their
damaged.
shitty girlfriend cheated on them in high school, like
Right,
me,
but
I guess
like,
I was the one.
okay, so, but you just sound like a bumbling, stupid child that didn't know how to do it. And then these people, they never
Thank you.
really recover. Why don't people ever recover from this stuff? I mean, yes, it was bad that you cheated on him. And I mean, I don't really cheat, but I've done like little things that were cheating. No, that's a lie. I've definitely cheated before. Who am I trying to freaking impress? But only like when I was a kid and being like really, really dumb. But, people make these really stupid mistakes. And I find that men oftentimes use those wounds and they never recover from them. And in retrospect, it's kind of ridiculous because when you're in high school, people are so stupid. What do you think about that? Like, why is it that women are able to get over this stuff faster than men? Is it because we're sitting here kibitzing about it, or what do you think?
Well,
Did
I
I
think
do
we're
that
allowed
right?
to.
Am I
Yeah,
like an honorary Jew now, kibitzing?
you
Yes.
are.
Thank
You
you.
are. That was
Okay, cool.
beautiful. No,
I think you have to approach us 7 times with a Yiddish word
yeah.
before you can convert.
Because you have the best
No.
words: schwitzing, schmuck,
I know. Isn't Yiddish?
verklempt. I
It's
love it.
crazy. I know. It's so good. No, I think we're allowed to just generally, it like goes back to a lot of cultural things, especially like back in the day, 1 billion years ago when I was in high school, at least. We're allowed to feel things more. We're allowed to deal with things more. I think guys were not as able to kind of just like wallow with friends or with family. It was like, suck it up, be a man, get over it. What's wrong with you? Stop being a pussy, like all that shit. So excuse my aggressive cursing, but I think that was kind of a huge way that a lot of guys were raised. So they didn't get to really vent about it or feel it maybe the way we have. So you have all this like repressed emotion and energy and turning it into different things. I think that's a big part of it, personally.
Yeah, I like that theory, Lauren. I also don't know if I agree that like women get over, like one gender is better at getting over being broken up with in a less than ideal way. I think it just depends on the individual. But, certainly feeling through the feelings is the way to heal from anything, right? You have to let yourself feel before you can heal. I don't know if I made that up or if that's like a real saying.
I like that.
I like it.
It's true though. Like it really helps if you just give yourself a little bit of time to really wallow in those feelings, even if it sucks and it hurts and it's unpleasant. That's the only way you're going to get past it. If you try to stuff it down, it's going to come back up later on, like maybe in your next relationships. So I want to hear stories from you two, if you don't mind sharing. I'm curious,
Yeah.
what are
Okay.
your worst breakup stories, whether it happened to you or it was done by you?
I would like to share something that I did, and I did it because I'd been broken up so many crappy different ways. Like I'd been ghosted, I'd been cheated, all this stuff. I had a few like normal breakups, but nothing like you imagine.
Wait, what's a
real
normal breakup?
like where it's just not working anymore and you discuss it. I'm thinking about my 10-year ex. Like we were just like, it was devastating, but we talked it through and we were just like, this isn't working anymore. We can't do this. It's too hard. There wasn't any cheating. There wasn't any messed up way that we did it. It just kind of just was a natural breakup that it was mutual. It was hard, but it was mutual. But I had been ghosted. I'd been ghosted a lot, and every one of these ghosts, except for one, came back. Every one of them. And I decided when I was ending things with this guy a couple of years ago, who's such a sweet, good guy. We just had such different values. Like we could have never gotten married and had kids. Our values were so off the wall opposite. He's a really intense conservative, anti-abortion, Trump supporter. It just, everything that he believed in went against everything I believed in. But
Wow, but opposites attract, huh? Like, how did you get together?
Well, from what I had heard, he had a crush on me and he wasn't my normal type. And we just always had fun together. So I was like, I'm going to give this guy a chance. And we dated. He took me out on dates. It was just really kind of traditional and I loved it. And he was really kind to me. He didn't pawn me the first date. He waited to kiss me. It was just really nice. And then when we finally got intimate and got serious, it was fantastic. He's still to this day, I count him as one of my nicest, kindest exes. I have nothing but fond memories of this guy, but I knew it wasn't going to work. And I knew that he wanted me to meet his family for Christmas. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, it's not fair to him and it's not fair to me. And I'd been broken up in so many crappy ways that I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the high road. This guy deserves an in-person breakup. Now, I chatted with a lot of people. People had really strong opinions on whether I should do it in person or not. Some people thought that was a dick thing to do. Some people thought that was the right thing to do. I, at the end of the day, was like, I'm going to do it in person. I know, just knowing him, I knew he would be upset if I didn't. And that's what it came down to. Like, what would be easier on him? I knew it would be harder on me. I was going to his house to break up with him. It was so terrifying. I talked about it at work every day for 2 weeks. I was like, I don't know.
Why were you terrified though? Like, were you afraid that he would retaliate, or
No,
were you
no.
afraid? Yeah.
I was afraid of hurting him. I guess I personally had never broken up with anybody in person like that. And I don't know. I was afraid of the unknown. Not that he would do anything. I knew he wouldn't. But it was more just like that fear of hurting him and knowing I was responsible for it. It just was terrible. It was really...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but like there is always that. I think it's always in the back of every woman's mind. Like, we're afraid to reject people because sometimes we learn, like, throughout our lives, that it can be dangerous to reject men sometimes.
Oh yeah. You really never know. I knew like 99.9% of me was like, he would never hurt me, but you don't ever really know. And I wanted to do that for him. I wanted him to know I cared about him, that I cared enough to take a 45-minute subway train ride to see him, to possibly be stranded in his town, which was nowhere near my town, and just do it in person, because he was worth that. Now, this is where it gets a little shady. So I went with all great intentions, and then I got there and I chickened out and we had sex. And I oh yeah.
Busted.
And I kind of just like, oh God, I lost it. I felt so bad. And then I don't really remember what it was, but after we had had sex, he said something, and it wasn't something negative towards me. It was just something that just showed our differences. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? What's wrong with me? I came here to break up with him. Did I really just do that? Like, I felt so bad. I think that was one of the worst ways I've felt ever in my life. Like, just, God, I felt bad. And so then I just kind of like started hysterically crying. I couldn't even control it. And I was like, look, we talked about it, and he got emotional. He wasn't mad that we had sex, just mind you, he wasn't. But he got emotional too, but he knew, I discovered, like, he knew it was coming. I don't think it came as a giant surprise to him. And I think he was kind of just waiting. I don't want to speak for him, but it felt like he was waiting for me to do it. You know, like he knew it was about to happen. And we had a really emotional talk, and it was very intense. And I ended up sleeping there. We did not have sex again. I ended up sleeping there, and we kind of both fell asleep, like just emotionally drained, woke up in the morning, gave each other hugs. That was it. So there were so many things. Yeah, there were a lot of things I did right there and a lot of things I did wrong.
Well, is it wrong that you had sex with him? Are you allowed to have one last,
I don't know. I think about it from the other perspective, and if someone had done that to me, I would be livid.
Yeah, but I think that's because you're a woman. You know what I mean? Women are always feeling like sex is something that we're giving away and that we're like whores for it, whereas a guy always feels like he's getting like a gift if he's getting sex. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I asked some of my guy friends. I didn't like go around sharing the story with a million people, but I asked like two of my very close guy friends, one who's gay, one who's straight, and they were both like, no, there was nothing wrong with what you did. Like that was a parting gift, one of them said.
Wow.
So it's interesting how we look at it, and I felt so guilty, and then maybe it wasn't, but I still feel guilty about it. But I feel like I went in there with the right intentions. I know that if I had done it over the phone, I would have felt worse about it now, even with the sleeping with him. I know it was old school, and maybe it's because he's a bit old school and traditional and conservative, but I knew it was the right thing to do it in person. I don't know that that's the right thing always. And I think in our society now, it's extremely uncommon for that to happen in person. Extremely uncommon. And I think especially because I knew that I was ending it. I knew that even if we had the best sex ever, this relationship was over. It was at that point. I was going to meet his parents. I couldn't do that to him. But I think a lot of times when we're unsure and we think we want to break up, we're not sure. If we do have sex when we're meeting in person to maybe have that conversation from a man or a woman perspective, I think it can really muddy things and we end up not breaking up. And then it's just like the cycle continues, because I've been in that boat too. So
yeah,
that's the most complicated. That's my complicated breakup situation that I'm still like kind of trying to like think through mentally 3 years later. I don't know.
Wow. What a
Yeah.
story. Now a lot of people are in long distance relationships, and you got to think like sometimes it's really difficult to get together in person and to actually do that breakup. And doesn't it depend on how difficult it actually is to see each other? Maybe that's the issue that you want to break up over because you're not seeing them often enough. In your case, it was a 45-minute subway ride, but sometimes it's a flight, right?
Oh yeah, I had that with my ex before my fiance. There was a lot of really ugly stuff that went down after we broke up and we worked through and became friends. But our initial breakup was long distance and it wasn't ugly. It was just, we did it over the phone. There was no other way to do it. We were on separate coasts. It sucked, but you know what's weird? While it was happening, as upset as I was, it was kind of a relief that he was so far away. I didn't have to run into him on the street. I had to see all his stuff on social media, which for a long time, as Tatiana knows, was not a pretty situation, but I didn't have to see him in person. And that was actually really nice. So,
You know what?
yeah.
I'm just thinking about. Oh, sorry, Tatiana. Go ahead if you want to jump in. I have a question for everybody after that.
Well, what does that mean? Because I haven't even talked about my breakup feelings. So are we moving to a new topic?
No, I was curious about about if you wanted to jump in, and then I also wanted to ask all of us after you're done, what kind of breakup would we like? What would be our ideal breakup?
Mm-hmm.
So, listening to this, it's like kind of like lipstick on a pig, right? Breaking up is pretty hard and pretty miserable. I'm kind of disappointed to see you gals talking about how the in-person breakup is so impractical, because while I agree to a certain extent, and yeah, I think that sex definitely happens a lot during those periods. I don't know. I think that if you're with somebody and you care about them, I think you owe it to them to do it in person, even if it's hard and even if that complicates it. But maybe that's not a realistic thing. I don't know how to talk about this. I had one breakup a long time ago with this guy who I had been with for, I don't know, 3.5 years. And he was a nutter. And basically he ghosted me after 3.5 years under the context that he was being, kidnapped by the US government for some MK Ultra project. Like he was into a lot of conspiracy stuff.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not my fault. The aliens are taking me.
I mean, that was literally what it was, basically. And later on, I found out that he was schizophrenic. But at the time, me and my friends kind of believed in some of the conspiracies. And he and I had a very, very tumultuous relationship, very not healthy. And so he broke up with me by ghosting me, pretending that, they, like the government or whatever, took him. And then about 6 weeks later, he called me at 3:00 in the morning and he's like, I fell deeply, deeply, deeply in love with somebody else. And then his somebody, and I was just like, well, okay, you're a coward. I was kind of shocked. I'm like, are you going to pay me back the money that you owe me? I was so poor. He owed me like thousands of dollars. And he's like, no, I don't owe it to you. Blah. And then like we got off the phone and I called back because I was like, wait a second, this is ridiculous. And then his new girlfriend told me off for 45 minutes, which I don't know why I stayed on the phone for 45 minutes. I guess I was just so shocked after such a long relationship that was so deep. And I mean, I loved him more than anyone, really. And to have her tell me how awful I was just outrageous. And then he came to my house like 6 months to a year later and broke in through the window and stole a guitar that he had given me. It was quite a valuable guitar. And that was super violating. So I would say that that's probably not the way to break up with somebody. Don't,
that's it takes the cake, I would say, for the worst breakup story.
Don't like break up with me and then break into my house and steal my money and then have your new girlfriend tell me off. So to all those people who are closed off because they had a breakup, suck it up, buttercup. Can't beat that. And somehow my heart is still open. Yeah, I think, one of the bad things about a breakup is when people drag it out for a really long time. And I understand why people do that. I recently had to sort of part ways with somebody, and it was really difficult to muster up the courage for that difficult conversation. And I ended up sort of putting it in his court to a certain extent because You know, sometimes you really just don't, you want to kind of hold out hope. And I think that it's really important for people to be very clear. I think sometimes people say things like, I am not sure if I want a relationship. Well, people should be very conscious with the precision of their words, because if the other person likes you and you keep engaging with them on a romantic level, it's not just devolved into a booty call. That can be really, really conflicting and confusing. I don't know. I think people are oftentimes really selfish. I think the ghost is the worst. But I think to break up with somebody over the phone is pretty trashy. But I don't know. I mean, is there really ever a really good time to do it? Is it human to make these errors? I'm not so sure. I would like to break up with people in person and then, kiss them goodbye and wish them well. And yeah, it sucks, but I don't really shy from some of those experiences. And I don't know if it's fair to consider somebody to be an utter and complete piece of garbage for shying from them. Although the ghoster is pretty much the trash bag. I think that's the worst person. You're eliminated from humanity. But I mean, I think a phone breakup is pretty crappy unless you're really far from each other. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that's why I even though I was scared totally shitless to do the breakup in person, I felt like if you care about somebody and you respect them, if you can do it in person, you do it in person. Like, it is scary from coming from the other perspective. Like, it was really scary to do, but I was like, this isn't about me being scared. It's about me doing the right thing. So yeah, I agree. If you can't do it any other way, a phone call is how you're going to have to do it. Or maybe, I don't know if a video chat is worse if you're long distance. I'm not really sure. But the ghosting, that stays with you. Like, it just, even when they come, I mean, I've had a lot of indication from them coming back, but it stays with you and you just question and overthink and feel worthless and wonder. I just think ghosting is just a really, really terrible thing to do to anybody. Just
cruel. I think it's very
so
cruel. And
so
also
cruel.
spineless.
Yeah.
And why do we care about people who are spineless? Why would you know what I mean? Like the phone breakup guy, whatever. I mean, that's like, I don't know. That's pretty spineless too. I don't know why we still like people that don't treat us well necessarily. Like, is it okay to be sad about a breakup that ends badly? Like, I don't really know. I mean, I guess people are sad about them. It's sort of a silly question, but I mean, why do we miss people that maybe aren't good enough for us? That's the other thing, I think a lot of times, like in this situation, I mean, there were parts of me that knew that it wasn't right. But why do I miss that? You know what I mean? Like, why is that sad anyway? I don't know.
Well, I want to go back to
healthy.
I'd like to go back to the ghosting topic, and you two seem to agree that this is pretty much like the worst thing to do. And I'm going to stick up for the ghosters a little bit. I agree. Like, when someone ghosts you, it really sticks with you, and you're wondering, like, why? Like, what just happened there? Why did they do that? And it's like, you can't get answers, and somehow you have to resolve it in your mind in order to move on, or else you're just stuck on it. And I have been ghosted, as I'm told the story about, but I'm also thinking of another situation where a woman ghosted me, and after a really very close relationship, and I think I understand why she did it now, like 4 years later. I think I understand why she did it, because she had a lot of bad experiences with rejecting people where it was very dangerous for her. And maybe she picked up on the fact that if she tried to reject me directly, it wouldn't be pleasant or maybe emotionally safe for her. Not that I would do anything. I would never like hurt her, or I would try to make it as easy as possible. But, I think I can understand why she did that based on all of her past experiences. And I had to just sort of like, get closure in my mind. I tried to talk to her a couple of times and she didn't want to talk. And so I just said, okay, I have to move on. And I, disconnected from her on social media and haven't spoken to her since. And then, I did end a relationship recently where I was, I guess, sort of ghosting in that I was really decreasing the frequency, but I told the person what I was doing. I said, hey, like, I really need some space from this relationship. I'm going to just mute contact for a while and I'll check in with you later. I think their expectations about when I would check in were maybe like a month later or something, but it ended up being 6 months later. And I think they were confused about that. And, I felt bad, but I didn't really even know what else to do. And this was like the best thing that I could do. And I was just prioritizing authenticity, right? I was in the middle of working this out in my mind, realizing that, hey, I feel better when I'm not in contact with this person. This is like what's healthier for me right now. And so I'm just going to continue not, reestablishing contact. And that was just like kind of what I needed. And I was sort of realizing it as time was going by. And so what else could I really do? And then, I wasn't completely like cutting off contact with this person. I saw them later in a professional context and everything was fine. But, I think they got the message and maybe they didn't want to talk to me either. Maybe it was kind of a relief. So I don't know. I guess that's not your traditional kind of ghosting where you just disappear.
That's what I was going to say. Is that really ghosting? I wouldn't necessarily, I think that's more of the slow fade than
I think it's boundary setting, not even a slow fade.
Yeah. I don't know that I would put that in the ghosting category.
Yeah, thank you. I think it was boundaries. Yeah. But boundaries have been something that I've been struggling with and that I've been working on a lot for the past few years. And yeah, that was an example of me growing in terms of setting boundaries, because in the past, I probably wouldn't have been able to do that, to just say to someone, hey, I think we ought to like take a break from talking to each other for a while. I'm not feeling it right now. Let's just part ways for a little bit and then check in later and see how it's going. I wouldn't have been able to do that in the past. So that was an example of growth. So thank you. I'm glad I'm not the worst spineless person ever, but I will say that, yeah, I mean, this is a problem for me. Like I can be spineless sometimes. I can be a pushover. Sometimes it's just a matter of like, okay, this isn't ideal, but I'm prioritizing authenticity. I'm following my heart. I'm doing what I think is best for me, even if it comes out a little messy sometimes. And I understand why people have done this to me in the past, because that was the best they could do in the past. So, okay, I forgive them.
Do they all come back? Sorry, go ahead, Laura.
I was just going to say that's a very empathetic. It's great. I've had that with some exes, but I can't say that I've been empathetic to everyone who's ghosted me. So I think you're a very empathetic person.
Thanks. And Tatiana, you were asking, do they come back? So the college boyfriend who ghosted me, he did come back later. Yes. He emailed me, or I can't remember, but no, I think he emailed me because I was just thinking, okay, I'm never going to talk to him again. He did email me. We reestablished contact very briefly, but at that time we had moved, so that we were living in 2 different cities. And we sort of talked about reestablishing a relationship, or we were trying to kind of work it out. I was trying to figure out like, why did he do this? And he was blaming it on his knee pain and depression. And I was like, okay, but I'm still kind of hurt about this. And it just fizzled out. Like we just kind of broke off contact. I started another relationship and he didn't want to have contact with me after that. The woman who ghosted me, that was actually not the first time she ghosted me. That was the second time she ghosted me.
Fool me once, right? Oh my gosh, terrible.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So the first time, we had known each other for several years. We met in an online discussion group, ironically, about communication, and we established a relationship. And then we had this thing where we saw each other in person. We hooked up, and I think she was freaking out about it. And then she, wanted me to leave and didn't speak to me for nearly 2 years. And then she popped back up and said, hey, can we talk? I don't like how this went down. And then we reestablished contact, and then she ended up doing the same thing again later. So I guess you're right. It's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. Well, as George Bush said, you can't get fooled again.
I would love to coin a term. I don't know if I'm actually stealing this from someone, but I actually have never heard it before. I say that we call these people zombies in the future. The ones who ghost us and then suddenly come back for more.
come back from the dead.
Yep. We've been zombied. We've got a zombie on our hands. I'm going to try to make that a cultural thing.
All right. I'm willing to participate in this.
I like that. It's The Walking Dead.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, why are they? I don't know. Do they always come back? I'm not so sure. And I'm not so sure if it's a good thing if they do. Is that even a good thing to focus on?
No.
You know what I mean? Because you get a lot of ego stroking if somebody comes back. But I mean, do you even engage with them in that conversation at all? I'm not so sure that that's a good idea.
No.
My mom, who generally is, I don't know, I just feel like she's not very supportive. She surprises me once in a while, and she's like, never answer the phone from somebody who left you. Like, leave them in the dust. They're an asshole. And I'm like, wow, okay, Mom. And I don't know, is that good? Do you think that it's worthwhile? I mean, maybe it's an individual case by case basis, but can that person really change? Can they prove any kind of change? What do you think of that?
Ooh, it did feel good when those zombies reappeared. But for me, I think if that did happen, first of all, they only get one chance, right? Second of all, like, I really would want to talk about why did they disappear, and if they're not willing to have an honest conversation about that, then, it's probably not going to work. Like, I'm not a fan of just picking up where you left off, like as though nothing happened and never talking about it. I don't think that would work for me at all. And I don't think I held their feet to the fire enough when this happened to me in the past. I was just so thankful that they were back. I was like taking whatever.
I would almost broaden the question and make it not to just the ghosters. I mean, what do you think about going backwards in a relationship? You know what I mean? Can you break up with somebody and get back and it actually work? Because I find people have a really hard time. Gosh, we didn't even get into this, but there's, the serial breakup, right? Break up, get back together. Break up, get back together. How do you break that cycle in the breakup?
Well, I've been there with my long-term ex, and I think at the end of the day, like, to break that cycle, you need to just like end it. It was almost more painful for us to break up our friendship than it was to break up the relationship at that point, after we knew that we were more just best friends. But we did it. We did it 3 times in 10 years. Break up, get back together. Break up, get back together. The 3rd time we were like, we can't do this. And then we tried, like a year after we broke up, we tried to be friends. It was amazing and then so hard. And then we were like, you know what, this isn't going to work. Maybe we can revisit this friendship in like 5 years, but we need to just start our own lives afresh. At least for us,
so
that was
sad.
Oh, it was devastating. I mean, it took me 10 years almost to get over that. But I've also had breakups that ended well, and the person has come back around as a friend, and you've actually met one of them. And he stayed a friend, and we were great, but I wasn't in love with him. So there's a lot of caveats to making that work, I think. I cared for him a great deal, and we ended up having a really lovely friendship, and he's a great guy. But yeah.
I guess it depends why. Why did you guys break up? That's a good point. Were you in love with him or not? I mean, can you be friends with somebody that you've been in love with before? I think it is actually possible, but I don't know. Steph, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, possible, but really difficult. I mean, I've tried to do this with some of my recent exes, and it did not work out with any of my recent exes. So maybe it's something about me where I'm not able to be friends with an ex. Maybe it's something about just the combination of me with my exes, but this was not working. However, I will say that my partner currently has an ex who we are both really good friends with. And that works really well, but that's like the best example I can point to of being successfully navigating a friendship with an ex. And Lauren has to go to work. Thank you, Lauren.
Oh, it was so great chatting with you guys. I'll see everybody soon. Bye.
We love you, Lauren. Bye.
Love you.
See, this is the world of podcasting. You can't always get all your co-hosts on the same show. But
Lauren dumped us in an honorable way.
Yes, she did.
She has
she
an
said
excuse.
Goodbye. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she made it a graceful exit.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier on the show before we started taping about potentially doing another topic, but man, there's so many things to unpack in a breakup. I mean, we may have to revisit this, but is there anything else that you think we want to comment on right now? I feel like I
Yeah.
could, but I want to organize my thoughts. So maybe you want to take the lead.
Okay, yeah. I mean, a couple things. I think like you two were right in pointing out that the way that you break up with someone is important, because if you do it in a ham-fisted way, the person can really lose respect for you, and there's a lot of there's some trust broken, or there's bad feelings, and that can really get in the way of transitioning to a friendship. And so if you care about being friends with the person, maybe it is best to think carefully about how you're going to do the breakup, but also realize that sometimes you just can't be friends with an ex, and that's okay. And it sucks because you might not want to break up with someone because you really care about them and you really want them in your life. But what are you going to do? Stay in this relationship that you're done with forever just because you don't want to have them out of your life? I mean, yeah, it's sad, but you have to accept some transitions sometimes, and people kind of come in and out of your life, and it's okay, right? Until you maybe find the person that you're going to be with really long term.
Well, yeah, I mean, that boils down to people just, I don't know, just being people, right? And life doesn't work out sometimes, and then you have to say goodbye to people. I don't know. It makes a case for polyamory, which I'm super anti-polyamory, and I like want all the polyamorous to go away into their own little like screwed up island. But it's sad that you have to let people go that can't meet all of your needs. You know what I mean? Because it's like, well, 80% of this person is amazing. What are they, just trash? But I mean, there's so many people in the world, and there's only so much capacity that you have for even having people in your life. What do they say? People can basically have about 150 people in their life at a time that they can actually, focus a fair enough amount of attention for them to even exist to them.
Oh
So,
yeah,
I mean,
and
maybe you have to be ruthless.
Yeah, the close connections, it's even smaller. It's like 10 to 15, right?
I don't know about that one. I just heard the other statistic, but yeah, I think that sounds about right. I mean, I consider myself to have a lot of friends, but people that are close to me, it's a little bit of a different thing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, people are rotating in and out of those circles, for me anyway, right? And what you're talking about is called the Dunbar number. And this was an anthropologist who did a study that basically said human brains are very good at we're very social animals, right? And so we have brain equipment to be able to deal with social relationships and mutually benefit from them. But we can only hold space for about 150 connections. And there seems to be a limit after that, where if one more person gets added, we have to kind of bump someone else off. And then with the close connections, like family and best friends level, it's even less. It's maybe 10 to 15 people. So it's like 10% of the total network. So this is a problem because, I don't know about you, but I see a lot of people with 5,000 Facebook friends, right? And
I literally have 5,000 Facebook friends.
We are very popular.
Right? I don't know any of these people, and I am creeped out by the fact that they know my life, but there's something very satisfying about posting on like in a public forum. It's like a justification of your life, like like a chronicling of it. But yeah, it's kind of creepy if you think about it.
Yeah, well, social media can sort of extend that Dunbar number, and it enables us to maintain more connections than the 150. But then what happens when we try to mix our brain with that software? Does it kind of cause an explosion because our brain can't handle more than a certain number of connections? So do we get overwhelmed and stressed out? I think, yeah, there is a certain amount of truth to that.
For another episode, I want to talk about just what compels people to do social media and how unhealthy or healthy is it. We've talked about mental health on social media, but I've been looking at Twitter and seeing a lot of just self-aggrandizing nonsense, and I can't take it anymore. So let's do that on another show. Social media, is it making us sick? Or are you a sicko for social media? Whatever, something like that.
Yeah, I've been struggling with that too. Like, I don't really even use Twitter, except I just go on Facebook like an old person. But every time I log on, it's depressing. I found out someone died. If people are struggling with health problems and mental health problems, like I just feel like every time I open it up, it's like depressing news and there's not much uplifting, even though I've been trying to shape my feed so that it is more uplifting. But yeah, you're right. Let's save that for another show.
Oh my gosh, we could go into so many things because they're also manipulating what you see. They.
Yeah.
No, we can't do this right now. You know what I want to see though? Maybe our audience can check this out. Did you ever see that movie They Live or whatever? It's from 84, 85. It's sort of the
I'm familiar
dystopian
with
movie.
that. Uh-huh.
I kind of want to see that and maybe talk about that too, because then maybe that'll tie in. That's what my sense is. I haven't seen it and I keep seeing it referenced in a lot of alternative radical culture or whatever. I see that movie referenced a lot. And also we've been doing these movie reviews. Do we want to give people any kind of a movie review assignment before we sign off today?
No, but I'm up for doing a review of They Live, and so our audience can join us in watching that if they want.
That's a great idea. And then what was the other one? We had we did the Christian Kiss one.
Okay, so
Marry
it was the
Me,
chicken lady.
Not just the chicken lady, but also the brides, the mail order brides. What's the name of that one? And the chicken lady. Get them all.
Okay, so we're going to be we're going to be reviewing a documentary on Amazon Prime called Love Me. It is about American men who are seeking Ukrainian brides to marry and come live with them in the U.S. And they have varying degrees of success. I loved it too. I thought it was fascinating.
And they were pretty respectful with the subject. So what is it? Love Me on?
It's called Love Me, and it's on Amazon Prime. And the other one that we were thinking about reviewing in relation to the show is what I affectionately call Chicken Lady. And this is a documentary called For the Birds. That one is on Netflix. And it is a documentary about a woman who is an animal hoarder and she hoards birds. And her husband is getting very fed up with this.
Wow.
And
don't tell. I think that's
I won't spoil it. I won't spoil
it.
But if you want to check that out, it's called For the Birds on Netflix.
Yeah, I like that because I think that'll tie into some audience questions that we've been getting. So I think it's time to wrap, but we've got so many cool episodes. Thank you to our listeners for checking in with us, for trying to grow yourselves a little bit. I know that we talk about this stuff and sometimes it's a little bit silly, but on a personal level, I've just been thinking about how hard it is to even after so many years of reading these like self-help and like self-reflection kind of experiences, how hard that is. So congratulations to you guys for taking the time to nurture a different part of yourself by listening to this show, hanging with us. If you have any terrible breakup stories or advice that you want to give or questions, we're on social media, Proof of Love Cast. So like podcast, but Lovecast. And it's proofoflovecast.com. We have shows coming out on Fridays. Take a listen. Please share this show with your friends. We can't grow our audience without your support. And of course, the support of our sponsor, Voltoro. Josh, Emily, and Tilly, you guys are beautiful. And I'm so happy that you guys are live. That has nothing to do with your company, Voltoro, but a company is made out of the people that found it. And what an amazing team that they have over there. I consider
Josh one
Voltoro,
of my best friends. Olé.
Oh, Voltoro, ole. Anyway, okay, that was very sappy. I feel like I'm at the Emmys. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Stephanie, any final words?
Tell us your bad breakup stories and tell us your positive breakup stories, too. I would like to hear that.
Awesome. All right. And also, if you guys are liking this show, you might like the TatianaShow.com. We air on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Josh is actually my co-host on a lot of those episodes. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. Thank you for listening to Proof of Love. Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Proof of Lovecast. More episodes can be found at proofoflovecast.com. And make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. Proof of Love has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond. You are listening to Proof of Love with Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on Proof of Love is intended as financial advice, legal advice, therapy, or really anything other than entertainment. Please take everything that you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're hearing us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on, or of any of the sponsors or affiliate products that you may hear about on the show.